Jews?" Jesus answered, "Do you ask this on your own, or did others tell you about me?" Pilate replied, "I'm not a Jew, am I? Your own nation and chief priests have handed you over to me. What have you done?" Jesus answered, "My kingdom is not from this world. If my kingdom were from this world, my followers would be fighting to keep me from being handed over to the Jews. But as it is, my kingdom is not here." And Pilate asked him, "So you are a king?" Jesus answered, "You say that I am a king. For this I was born, and for this I came into the world, to testify to the truth. Everyone who belongs to the truth listens to my voice." The Gospel of the Lord.
Praise to you, O Christ.
How strange it may seem, with next Sunday being the first Sunday in Lent. Advent. I told you it was strange. Advent. That on this last Sunday of the liturgical year, we should have this Gospel of John. Jesus being led before Pilate. And next Sunday, all of a sudden, we are going into the texts that lead us into Christmas. I look at the text, and I've been also looking at the news, and part of me wants to say, everything we pray for doesn't seem to come true. I was 11 years old when I was listening on a Friday night to the Lone Ranger on the radio. And my aunt came in, breaking in and crying to my mother that David Shea was dead. David was my second cousin. He was in the Korean skirmish, or whatever they called it. It wasn't a real war. But for the first time, I was hit right at home by the loss of someone that had a deep effect on my whole family. Prior to that, it was just something I read in a book or a lesson I learned about how the world was run. And from that point on, I just couldn't anymore pretend that wars were just something on a page in a book of history. And so lately, on the news, I hear of what's happening in the country of Yemen, and the prediction is that because the port is blocked, thousands, maybe hundreds and hundreds of thousands of people will starve to death. Thy kingdom come, thy will be done on earth as it is in heaven, we pray. Syria has been bombed out of anything that could be recognized. The Taliban went in and they destroyed so much of the ancientness of the country itself, so many things that were conjured of the past. And we see the bombs falling on shelters where children's hospitals are, and how these wonderful people in white hats rush in to save as many as they can, many of them dying also with the children. And so we continue to pray, thy kingdom come, thy will be done on earth as it is in heaven. And even in our own country, I don't know how anybody's going to settle really the whole border incident down in Mexico. There are new proposals right now, but yesterday I saw a mother speaking in Spanish being translated with her daughter, and she came up from Guatemala to save herself and her daughter because her son, her husband, was shot dead. In the city of Tegucigalpa, which is now well known to be the murder capital of the entire world, not just of its country, but of the entire world. You hear this news, and yet we go on. Thy kingdom come, thy will be done on earth as it is in heaven. A cry over and against the stupidity of the world, its marginal borders, its dictators, its people who wish to dominate other people, grind them into the ground. Jesus stands before Pilate. Pilate asks him, are you the king of the Jews? And Jesus says, do you ask this on your own, Or did others tell you about me? And he replies, Pilate says, I'm not a Jew, am I? It's your own people, the chief priests who handed you over to me. When he says that I am not a Jew, he literally looks down upon them because he has the power over them. He is what we call the secular power of the world. And the secular power of the world stands in judgment of Jesus. And so he says, what have you done? And Jesus says, my kingdom is not of this world. If my kingdom were of this world, my followers would be fighting to keep me from being handed over. His kingdom is not of this world. So where is his kingdom? Because this is all the world we have to live in. It's the only thing we know. So what are we going to do with words like this? Except pray, thy kingdom come, thy will be done on earth as it is in heaven. Even in the midst of what we see that's going out there in the world, in the midst of the stupidity of wars, silently fighting in the nights. And I'm torn. Because I think I'm just like you are. I love the country that I live in. I really do. I have been one of the most fortunate people in the world to have been born in this country, and I know it. And even though in growing up I lived in fear of the Cold War and what might be happening with Russia building up its atomic bombs, its missiles, and us matching them over and over, till finally they're in the thousands, to the fact that we can destroy the world hundreds of times over. Mad, mutually assured destruction. Had we gone mad? There are times when you look at the whole thing and you wonder to yourself, wow, what's happening? Now, as I say, I like it here. I don't want to go anywhere else. Yet I'm getting the feeling that somehow something has gone wrong with democracy. Winston Churchill said democracy is a horrible way of political systems, yet it's the best one we've got. There's nothing better, as bad as it may seem. And I look out into the world of politics, and I'm recalling all of the things that I can remember about elections. I remember when Richard Nixon was running, and someone called him, in reference to Richard the Lionheart, to England they called him Richard the Chickenhearted. And I laughed, I thought that was very funny. Until all of a sudden we discovered that when he got into office, terrible things were happening. Even to the point of, before the election itself, he was in contact with North Korea to stop peace talks so that they would only start when he was elected. Lyndon Johnson called it treason. I'm not sure if it is or it isn't, but it's a terrible legacy to have to listen to, isn't it? That even within our own system that we live in, where we feel that we have a vote, that we have a voice in what's going to happen, how we're governed, all of us together in one way or another, and the balance of power shifts back and forth between Democrats and Republicans over and over, and people say, "Look, I am either or." And somehow there has to be something in the middle, or all kinds of terrible things can happen. I have to be careful because I cannot stand up here as an ordained pastor and tell you which way you can vote. Because if I do, our tax exemption will be taken away. And I don't want to leave that church with that burden on you. So I have to be careful. But at the same time, I live in two different worlds. I live in a secular world of politics here in this country. And over and against that, a text like this arises where I hear Jesus saying, "My kingdom is not of this world. If it were, my people would be fighting to save me." So where is that world? I can only say that it probably exists internally within each one of us, and what guides us in the principles that we say we observe, and the laws that we obey, and in the things that we do and how we look upon out in the world of the suffering is something that there is a modifying factor that says, you shall live and you shall not live. What a terrible thing to hold in your voting hands. And so, on Christ the King Sunday, we say that yes, he is what we call the kingdom of a kingdom. He is a king of a kingdom. And over and against that, I say to myself, I don't know what a kingdom is, you see, because I've never lived in a kingdom. I live in a democracy. I live in a republic. I am so far removed from these words that I have to retranslate them into my life to make them real, to somehow make them move, and part of my being of how I walk out into the world of sometimes terrible politics and difficult situations, of world wars, of skirmishes, of hearing things that happen over and again, of innocent people being ground into the dust. And it doesn't make sense to me. And yet, I don't stop, do I? And neither do you. Because now, pretty soon, you're going to say, thy kingdom come, thy will be done, on earth as it is in heaven. And to say those words is a contradiction sometimes to everything you see out in the world. It contradicts all the foolishness, all the death, all the people who rise up and wish to dominate other human beings. Thy kingdom come, thy will be done, on earth as it is in heaven. And yet it is the touchstone, it is the litmus test of who we say when we say, yeah, I'm a Christian. And somebody says, well, what do Christians do? Part of what Christians do is they pray those words, thy kingdom come, thy will be done, on earth as it is in heaven. And even though it may seem to buck right against a glass wall of what we see in the secular world, we don't stop. Simply because what we are saying at that moment is, I want to see the world not always as it should be, because it doesn't seem to go that way, but I want to see it at least the way God prefers it to be. That it is his will that we do justice, that we love mercy, that we walk humbly with our God. It is what he calls us to do. It is what he calls us to be as human beings. And so, on Christ the King Sunday, as we close the liturgical year, we see these words, we sing our hymns over and over, Christ is the King. Sooner or later, he's got to be king somewhere. And if he can't be king within our own selves, with our minds, with our hearts, then there is no kingdom of God. Because he has handed over to us to pray those words and to be one, as his Son spoke the Lord's Prayer to us. So, I have to admit, sometimes I get just downright, depressed. I don't want to turn on the news anymore because I'm afraid of what I'm going to hear. It just kind of takes over, it sweeps over me, and at those moments, I'm not thinking of who I am as a Christian. I might be thinking of who I am as a citizen of the United States, and if I'm not careful, I want retribution against those people who murder other people, who destroy their lives. That's what I am as a human being. I'm probably nearly as sinful as the people who perpetrate these things. And then I have to stop and think, who are I? Who am I? And I have to say, like it or not, in all my training, and in yours too, I think, since you were a little kid, you learned the words, thy kingdom come, thy will be done, on earth as it is in heaven. And you say them again and again, despite what you see out in the world. Despite the fact that, yes, we have to arm ourselves because it's dangerous out there, and even to the point where our country might be dangerous to other people. And we do it with lots and lots of money, $700+ billion for our defense and our military. That's how dangerous the world is, lest we forget that. And every time I have to pay my taxes quarterly, right? And I write out that check and I think to myself, this doesn't pay for a half a second of the government. Not even that. But I write out the check dutifully, not because I'm afraid of the IRS, really, although I don't want to get involved with them. Nevertheless, I do it because that is what I am called to do as a citizen of this country. When that money goes out and it's cash somewhere, goes into the U.S. Treasury, I don't know how that little tiny bit is being spent. disapprove. Nevertheless, I do it. And at the same time, I stand here and I say, thy kingdom come, thy will be done on earth as it is in heaven, even though it is so far different from what I am seeing out in the world, even in the country that I have come to love. What a difficulty. And if it isn't becoming a difficulty, then maybe we have to make it become a difficulty so that we can understand who we have become. Why the waters of baptism were poured over our head once, and God in that moment said, you belong to me, not just now, in the midst of everything you see, but for all time to come. So I guess Christ the King Sunday is appropriate before we walk into Advent, before we hear all of the stories of angels, cows, shepherds, kings, because it reminds us that is how the kingdom comes. It comes helpless, in infant baby form, which is a far cry from all the powers that we see out in the world. So hold on, everyone. Now Christmas is coming, but we had to be reminded on Christ the King Sunday that this little one was going to call people, and he's going to say, my kingdom is not of this world. It is different. And in time, people will be invited to have a vision of what that kingdom might be and hold on to it, despite what they see out of the terrible foolishness of warring people